Hello, Craig here with MFA Underwriting. I wanted to give you a tutorial of our new tool called the MFA Expense Database. I created this to be able to track all of our T12 income and expenses for all the deals we analyze so that I can refer to them later as I'm underwriting new deals in a certain market. I want to mention that this is a beta tool, which means it's available for you to use, but it's not fully bulletproof. So the data you put in here is not validated. So if you put in bad data, your results are likely to be bad as well. We'll start by going over a quick overview of what the database looks like. So here you can see I have 75 properties with an average unit size of 206 and across 66 cities. So I've been collecting this data from all the deals I've analyzed over the last several months, and I put it into the database. And we'll go through that process in a second. But now what I can do is I could drill down into a particular city, let's say a particular MSA, state, MSA, and city, and I could see my averages for those expenses, right? So this is very helpful for determining payroll or expense ratios or income losses. And again, I only import the T12 data for properties that I feel are fairly well run. If we're looking at a distressed property, I'm not going to import it here because my goal is to get a pretty good idea of what is happening in that local market. All right, so we will go through the importing process. So you can import the T12 data from the MFA Advanced Underwriting Model 5.37 or newer. Any older underwriting models, this won't work. So I will go over to the underwriting model. It's very easy. You just right click any tab in the underwriting model. You go to unhide, and there's this hidden tab called Expense DB. Click OK. And here you see it consolidates all your T12 data and some property information as well. I should mention that I only upload T3 income data and T12 expense data. This is usually the snapshot that I look at the most often when analyzing deals. So you want to make sure that the data you upload into the database is always consistent and the same. So in this case, I'm always doing T3 income, T12 expenses. So you need to make sure in the underwriting model that you have your income set to T3 and your expenses set to T12. And that will ensure that everything in here is T3 and T12. There are only a few inputs. So the date of the analysis, I like to track this because I don't want to look at deals that I've analyzed 2 years ago because I know so much has probably changed since then. City, it pulls this data from the address field, but if it's incorrect, you should override it. MSA, and the state. So again, verify these inputs and make sure they're accurate before you go through the next step. So it's very easy. Just click the button, copy values, and then I'm going to go back to the expense database. I'm going to go to the input tab, and I just click this button, paste values. And all I did is just pasted the values from that MFA file. And again, verify the inputs are correct. If everything looks good to you, I will click the button, Save to Database. It takes a second. It's going to write every single value into a table. I mean, it's not really a database. It's an extended table, and I'll show you that next. So this tab called Database is where all the data gets stored. So if I go to the bottom, this is the data that we just uploaded. So you can see has all the information that we need. Next step is to go to the Output tab, and I have to refresh this pivot table. So all I got to do is right click on it and refresh. And it makes sure to capture, and you can see this Anytown and this state, California. This is the property we just uploaded. So I'll click on that. And you can see this matches exactly with the data we just pulled, we imported. And that's it. That's the process for updating the database. It's very simple. I do this after I map the T12. Okay, I want to show you a little bit about how to navigate the pivot table. You can see on the left we have filters. The filters just filter by state, MSA, and city. So let's take a look at one where I know I have a lot of properties inputted here. So Georgia, I have 20 properties across 19 cities, an average number of units of 194. As you can see, this is a lot of data to kind of ingest. So the easy way to be able to see what this all means is to group the data. And there's a couple ways to do that in a pivot table. You can click on the little minus signs. So if I click on the minus for the state, you'll see it will group all the state data into one set of columns. And this is the average of all the cities and all the properties that are underneath that grouping. Sometimes when you're looking at multiple states, let's say, for example, everything, the entire data set, let's say I want to group this all by state, I can click the minus for every single state, but that would take quite a while. There's this option within this pivot table analyze tab called collapse fields. So any state that I click on or any field that I click on that has a minus, it will collapse all the fields there. So let's go ahead and collapse. And you can see it just collapsed all the states. And if I scroll all the way to the right, I can see the total. This is the average, all the data that's included in all the states. If I want to expand that, I just click on the field and I click expand field. This is helpful. Let's say if back to Georgia, I can group all the MSAs or collapse. So there you go. You have all the MSAs and then I have my total. So this is a helpful feature for trying to make sense of this large data set. I tend to focus on the totals. And so let me get a little more specific. I'm going to filter for Atlanta. And here's how I use the data. So when I'm analyzing a deal, let's say in Atlanta, I will come here and I will look at my average, financial losses. I will look at the RUBS amount. I spend a lot of time, I look at payroll, especially payroll per unit, to see what the average is. And so you can see the general breakout and the overall expense ratio. And now if I wanted to get more detailed, I can expand Atlanta by clicking this plus, and I can see the different properties, right? Like what are the ones that have like maybe higher payroll? Maybe I want to look at that one. Why is that one so high? But it helps me dial in my expenses on a property I'm analyzing for Atlanta. So you can use this any way you want. I will preface again, the data you put in here is really important. So what you're going to receive when you download this file is a blank file. And you could go back through your previous underwritings as long as it's MFA Advanced 5.37 or newer, and you can add your data to this spreadsheet. But if the data is incomplete, uh, the data output will also be incomplete. So be very careful in validating your data that you put in here. Let me show you how to remove data from the database. So for the deal we uploaded, this California deal, this is a fake deal. I don't want this in my data, and I want to remove it from my data set. It's pretty easy. You go to the database tab, and the deals in this tab are sequential, so based on the order you uploaded. So the Anytown apartments, or ABC apartment homes, sorry, are going to be at the very bottom. You see, here's the bottom. So I highlight all the rows that say ABC apartment homes. So just the data set, actually, not the rows. I highlight all the data set. I right click on it. I delete and I delete table rows. Click on that. And then I go back to my output and you got to refresh your pivot table. So right click on it, click refresh. And you'll see that California has disappeared from my state. I don't have the Anytown apartments or Anytown city. It's gone from my data. Okay, that's it for the expense database. Thank you for watching.